Hello, week 4, I think, of maintenance. Hope everyone's all right. I have a new device thing that's holding my iPad, so it's very strange. And I'm also being very hedonistic and have decided to do this video from my bed because I'm being lazy and it's raining outside. And I went to the gym already, and for all those reasons, I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed. So thank you for watching. Thank you for coming back. I'm in week 4 of maintenance, but I'll do another video about that. I just wanted to upload this video first regarding kind of how I got to now. So one of my lovely viewers, Jacqueline, had asked about what I meant when I said spiraling back to where I had been. Because I think, like many of you, this isn't the first time I've lost the weight. But I want it to be the last time that I lost it and gained it again. So what I did with my handy notes is I wrote down kind of my journey till now. It's so hard to remember the most basic of things when you've got like an iPad like right here with your own face staring at you. So I thought I'd write it down. Okay, so my journey, probably the first time I really remember being larger I was probably about 13 in an all-girls school back in England. So as you can imagine, that wasn't the most fun of times. Anyway, so I remember just being in the change room and feeling so much bigger than everyone else. Now, probably at that time, as I look back, and I'm sure if I could find a picture, I probably wasn't. I'd probably maybe 1 or 2 stone overweight, 2 stone maximum. And when I say overweight, I mean just not tiny, teeny, tiny, stick thin. So probably still within a healthy weight range. But I remember feeling so much bigger and therefore so much more inadequate and so much more worthless. And that's when I really remember being cognizant of tying what I weighed to how valued I felt as a person. So I did the usual teenage thing of becoming shameful about my body and then shameful about what I was eating. Eating too much, eating too little. I have 2 sisters and a brother, and we just had like a little council house. So council housing in the UK, what is that, like social housing here in Canada? So it wasn't like the most luxuriant of upbringings, but I remember having to like sneak food away to eat it in case one of my siblings saw it, and I think that's where some really unhealthy eating patterns kicked in. I'm at the age of 13. Food that I would eat would be like mainly stuff my mum would have brought into the house, but she would have bought it to share for everyone, and I would just like scoff the whole lot, like those little tiny I think they call them fun size. They ain't fun size, they're tiny size chocolates, and I would just eat handfuls of them at a time. Or she'd do some baking, and again I would just like scarf 3 or 4 cupcakes at a time and like either pretend like my brother had done it or my sister had done it, if anyone even noticed. But you know, tend to be they didn't notice. Oh, also got a cup of tea. Damn. Anyway, so that was my teenage years. We didn't have a scale at our house, so I don't know how much I weighed throughout all of that. I have no idea. I couldn't even give you a rough guess, which in some ways I think is probably kind of healthy, that we were raised not to worry too much about what we weighed. And then there are other ways where I wish I kind of knew now, because in my mind, my memories are of being a lot larger than everyone else. But I'm sure if I found a picture or even had a number I could look back on, I'd be like, what was I thinking? Anyway, so my weight kind of went up and up. And then I started university in 2002. And I remember that year, the point when I didn't go to uni right away, I took I had some time in between college and uni, so I just like, you know, whatever, did the odd job around the little town that I lived in. And one of those odd jobs was in a corner shop, or a convenience store, as we'd say here in Canada. So it was in a little like 7-Eleven, we call them Spar. And I would just like sit there and just eat whatever I wanted all day. Just like sat there, crisps, chocolate bars, and it was all right there. And I just like, it just felt like so easy to do. So my weight went again up and up. I don't know to what point. I remember trying on a size of Dorothy Perkins size 20 trousers, probably when I was about 18, so just as I was leaving for college, and they didn't fit. So I decided to manage that situation by just not eating. I remember feeling so ashamed that a size 20 didn't fit me that I just stopped eating entirely. Like, I'd probably eat salmon for dinner and that's it, like literally just a thing of salmon, and that would be it, and maybe an apple for breakfast. So within a few short months, like I think 3 or 4 months before doing that, and then I get so hungry and feel so, oh, what's the point, I'm still really fat, that I would then binge. And I wish I had this language back then, but I didn't. All I knew was I was dieting, I was eating healthily, and then I would treat myself. And by treat myself, I remember just eating giant packets of crisps or chips, just giant bagfuls of them constantly, of like over one day, just sitting there scoffing secretly to myself, and then the next day feeling so guilty about that, I would just not eat again. And when you look back on it, you just think, what was I thinking? And oh my gosh, of course that's disordered eating, but at the time it just feels like what you needed to do, because you're not valued unless you're thin. So to be thin was everything. Also didn't help at that time my older sister, which I'm sure if she ever watched this one day I'd be mortified. Hey Sarah. She was very, very thin at that time, very thin. I'm talking like a UK size 6, so probably a US size 4, something like that, like tiny. And she's only a year older than me, and that was always a sense of competition between us too. There was always this sense of like, Laura's going to uni, she's smart, but Sarah's the pretty one, kind of thing. And that's really boiling it down, and I'm not sure if that was her experience, but that's my memory of how it was. Anyway, so I lost 2 dress sizes that summer before university through the binging and not eating cycle. So of course that works, right? You don't eat, then you eat loads. You don't eat, you eat loads. That worked. I lost 2 dress sizes. So that was kind of a pattern of eating that I maintained for probably throughout my university years. I don't think I gained anything. I think I might have even lost weight through college, which is unusual. So I met my husband. So I just had my hair dyed and it's all itchy. It's that time, you know, they say don't wash it for a few days. Well, ew. It's been a few days. Anyway, so I met my husband in 2002, kind of first year of university. We lived together, and we still do. And probably still living like students. And so so yeah, I don't think I gained too much during college. I think my memory of those years, it was more about alcohol and knowing everything than it was like related to the food. So I have no memory, again, no scale, no recollection. I remember my friend joined Slimming World, and my dad was doing Weight Watchers at that time, and I remember just thinking like, oh my god, they need programs to help them control their eating. Oh my gosh, I know it all. You just don't eat and then eat everything for a weekend. Anyway, so when I started my master's degree, so 2005 I finished my undergrad, 2005 I started, that same year I started my master's degree, and I gained so much weight through my master's degree. So I moved to South East London, and I didn't live with my then boyfriend, now husband, and his parents. I just thought that was taking too many liberties. They lived right next to the college, but I was like, no, I can't do that. So I moved in to a house share and hated everyone I lived with. And the master's degree was so stressful, like studying full time, and it was part of the University of London, so it was like surrounded by rich people all day. It was very stressful. So I would drink an awful lot and I'd eat an awful lot. So rather than before I didn't eat and then I'd eat a lot, during my masters I just ate a lot. And I'm talking, I mean, crisps have always been my thing, like chips, but I would go to Lidl and buy, you know, those like 24-pack multi-pack of chips or crisps. They're kind of little. I would sit there and eat at least 10 in one go. Chocolate covered peanuts, like those little treaty foods, all day, all night. That's what I would do while I was studying, just by the handfuls, like peanut M&Ms by the handfuls. And that all came to a head probably just after I'd finished my master's. This is kind of late 2006. I just started working at the university. I went from a student to working in student services. And I remember being on a bus on the way to work, and I went to sit next to somebody. There was like one seat left on the bus kind of thing. I went to sit next to this dude, poor dude, like, and I kind of half was on him because I didn't realize how big I was. And then he very much told me how big I was and was like, you should lose weight. You're like sitting on my lap here, and like just being quite rude to me. Which, I don't know, I kind of still feel bad for him though, because I probably at least think the same things if I was sat somewhere and someone sat down and was like in my space. I could see why he reacted that way. As harsh as that sounds on myself, but that's just kind of like, yeah, I just feel like he wasn't wrong to react that way. He could have been a bit nicer about it. And it was kind of the kick up the butt I needed, because I literally couldn't see it on myself. So then, so that kind of unhealthy pattern of eating too much and then not eating for like the rest of the week, and then eating too much and then not eating for the rest of the week went on until I left the UK with my husband in 2008. And at that point, I do remember weighing myself. My mother-in-law, we lived with my parents-in-law for a while, and they have a scale. And I remember actually weighing myself probably for the first time. I remember weighing myself, and it said 190 pounds. So I could do the math on that quickly. Just get my phone. I'm not dividing 190 by 14. That's ridiculous. So there's 14 pounds in a stone. So if I talk in stones at any point, then you'll get an idea of where I'm getting that number from. So 190 divided by 14, and you're all screaming it at me as we speak. So 13 stone 5. So I remember being 13 stone 5 and coming over to Canada, and that was all good. Everything kind of went, I mean, moving to a different country is very stressful. But then it's a lot more active here, so it kind of swings and roundabouts, right? Like I eat all this new delicious food, like hello poutine, hello Dairy Queen, my god, like name it. The McDonald's here is really different as well. So anyway, I'd eat all the like new junk foods, love every second of it, but I'd have to walk quite far to work and that kind of thing. So I feel like I'd maintained or only gained slightly. I don't remember a significant gain. I do remember buying a set of scales though, and I do remember trying to actively lose weight in what I thought was a healthy way for the first time in around 2010. So I have really good friends here, and I love them all to death. They're like my sisters. And some of them are particularly thin and very active and healthy, and I kind of wanted to do stuff with them, but like I was always a bit, what I felt was too big and unhealthy, so I decided to get in shape. So I went from 190 pounds. I remember the lowest weight I remember being is 160 pounds. And that was about 5 years ago. I got down to 160 pounds. Does that make sense? Nope. 7 years ago. And it was good. But I did it in what I thought was a healthy way, but looking back, it really wasn't. It was the 17-day diet, where you don't eat carbs for 17 days, then you only eat a little bit of carbs for the next 17 days, then you eat like the lowest amount of carbs ever, but you think it's loads of carbs because you haven't eaten any carbs for the next 17 days, and you repeat that 3 cycles till you're at the weight you want to be. Not good, very unhealthy. My breath stank. I don't know if anyone's been doing low carb and stuff, but it really does not bode well on the breath. So I remember just feeling like kind of stinky and gross and no energy, and feeling like oh, at least I'm thinner now, but like not being able to still do anything. The reasons I started to lose weight still wasn't really there, and I remember just looking like gaunt. Like I look shocking today because I got no makeup on because I went for a facial yesterday. Anyway, that's beside the point. So anyway, I got down to 106 pounds, and then I got pregnant with my first son, who is now 5. And then during the pregnancy with him and during the maternity leave, I think during the pregnancy I probably only gained like the 15 to 20 like you're supposed to, but afterwards I gained 80 pounds in total. So I remember getting on a scale and it was like 240 pounds, and I remember thinking this scale is so broken. But I probably went to a US size 20, which is a UK size 18, I think, be about right. And it was awful. And I remember booking a trip to go back home to see my family, and I remember trying to lose weight for that, and again doing that in the let's not eat anything ever, and then let's eat loads all at once. So I went up and down around 20 pounds. Again, eating loads of junk food, and eating, a bit of chicken during the day. And that's how it would go. Junk food, junk food, junk food. And then the next at least 3 to 5 days, let's not eat anything. Again, now you look back, you think, what were you doing? Like, it's so obvious now. Anyway, so then I got pregnant again 2 years after that. And I didn't actually gain anything through that pregnancy. I didn't gain, which was good. But still, that still made me around 220-ish pounds. Remember 236 pounds after I'd given birth to my second son. That means about, I think that's like 16 stone 3, something like that. What did I just say? 236 divided by 40. 16 stone 8 was my highest that I remember of recent. And then it was, so I had, God, my second son was about 4 months old. My weight had not really done anything. I'm stuck at home with both boys by myself. Like, my husband would go to work, and my last son, we decided that he would stay home with him and I would go back to work. And so it was just in those few months where we were making that transition over that I just remember, like, my eating had got so out of control. Like, I wouldn't be doing any exercise other than, like, I'd walk my youngest son around the house, like, tied to me, like the hippie attachment parenting thing. Because lazy. If I tie him to me, then my hands are free and I can use my phone. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, so I'm like, he's tied to me and I'd be walking him around the house, and that would be as much exercise as I'd get. And then as soon as they were both in bed, because my eldest would still go down for an afternoon nap and my youngest would sleep most of the time, I would just go downstairs in my kitchen and just eat. What I would do is buy 2 big bags of everything. So 2 big bags of cookies, 2 big bags of crisps, like chips, 2 big like multi-packs of chocolate bars, and put them all in the fridge and break them up and put them in little places. So that way when my husband wanted some, I could just pretend like, oh yeah, it's the one in the pantry, or it's the one in the cupboard, or the one like under the coffee table, when really there was one in every one of those spaces. But he would have that one that I directed him to, and then I would just eat the rest in secret throughout the day. And I'd fold up the wrappers so small and hide them under the garbage so he'd never know that I'd eaten all of that. So it was no surprise that one day I found myself at my kitchen side in front of the fruit bowl. We had no other food in the house. I hadn't done food shopping, and both my boys are upstairs, and I'm just eating apple after apple, just to have this, just to feel sick. It was the weirdest sensation, but it's like, if I just keep eating, then everything will be okay. And so it was really at that moment this huge penny universe dropped, that I was like, this ain't right. So I booked an appointment with my family doctor, and I had to do a food journal for a while. I met with him twice, and he referred me to a counsellor and a dietitian, and I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, which makes so much sense now, because it was never about eating too much from what a regular person would eat. It was about eating as much as I possibly could. But with binge eating, you don't purge. So with something like bulimia, you would eat lots and then engage in purging or compensatory behaviors. So over exercising or enemas or vomiting. With binge eating, you don't do the purge. So you eat and you gain weight quite quickly. When you find yourself binge eating like apples, and I'm talking, I think I probably had about 6 or 7 apples in the space of about 10 minutes. Like it was like this cartoon, like rampant eating. Like that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about ordering too much Chinese food at the buffet kind of thing. So I managed for a year. After that diagnosis, it really helped. I sought mental health help, which really helped. It put into perspective all the years of what I had done to my body before and how I'd managed myself through eating. And then I joined Weight Watchers with my very good friend, who is probably also going to watch this at some point. Hi, Louise. So I joined Weight Watchers, and my other really good friend, Krista. Hi, Krista. She also joined Weight Watchers, and so we've been doing that together since July last year. And it really, so I think the foundation help that the counsellor provided and the dietitian provided about what is a regular amount of food, what is a healthy portion, when is a healthy portion, because once you've been in a cycle of eating nothing and then eating lots and lots, and you've been doing that since I was like 16, 17, you don't know what these things are. Like, you don't know what these things are anymore. And it sounds so strange to say, but you really need re-educating. So I can't promote dietitians enough for any of those of us who struggle with that. And then, so when I was in a healthy headspace, I joined Weight Watchers and really what Weight Watchers has done for me is taken food from an emotional crutch where I valued myself or I devalued myself, where I am bad because I've eaten, I mean, I could eat probably, I'd eat 2 KFCs a day for sure. I'd eat, and then on top of that would be like kettle chips or Miss Vicky's or like those big bars of chocolate, like the dairy milk. I can't put it on the camera. Ooh. The big ones of chocolate. Starbucks lattes, like you name it, I'd eat that. And that was just kind of regular day on a binge. It's whatever I had at hand, but typically that was cookies, chips. It would be never really into ice cream and that sort of thing, but definitely chocolate. And then also things that you wouldn't think would be something you could overeat. Like, have you ever tried eating 2 bananas at once? Yeah, it's hard, but I could sit there and eat like 3 or 4 because I just wanted that feeling of feeling gross. Anyway, I'm seeing how long this video is, and so I should not. So that's what I meant, Jacqueline, when I said spiraling back, because I feel like I've done this 1,000 times, where I feel like I'm in complete control and I know what I'm doing, when really what I'm doing is completely unhealthy and not sustainable. Whereas what Weight Watchers has done is put it in a sphere where it is healthy and it's sustainable, and it's more of a math problem than it is a food problem, because I have 36 points and I have to decide how I'm going to use them, which means me thinking through, what food do I have in the house, what food do I need to buy, if I exercise too much, I'm going to have too many points to eat, then I'm going to end up in a place where I could potentially binge, and I don't want to do that. So suffice it to say, Weight Watchers has put a framework around what I need to do, and that's really helpful. It gives me a focus. It's also teaching me ways to value myself beyond the scale. So it's not about that number, because before you even get on the scale, they say, how was your week? How are you? How was your week? And so you get to define how your week has been before you've even looked at that number. Same in the group. Well, there's so many times when someone said, oh, I was bad. And the leader always reminds us, you weren't bad. You made a choice. You ate food. Like, it's neutral. It's okay to eat food. Eating food is okay. I only lost half a pound. You lost half a pound. Well done. But even if you'd gained half a pound or a pound or 2 pounds, what else was great about your week? What lessons did you learn that you maybe wouldn't do again anytime soon? But also, what things did you do that made you feel valued? So that's why I love Weight Watchers. Like, probably gonna end it here for right now, because I do want to make another video right away here that focuses on my maintenance this past week and what I've done to maintain, and getting closer to lifetime. So, okay, that's my story. That's my journey. Catch you in a minute.